Last night gave us an epic game between the Golden State Warriors and the OKC Thunder. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes for 52, but the Warriors fought back from down 10 at halftime, end up coming away with the victory. I do have a film breakdown of the second half coming later in the video. I'll leave a timestamp right here for you if you want to skip to just the film breakdown, but we got to talk about SGA. I mean, we got to talk about the season he's having. That's why you guys are here, right? We have to talk SGA going for 50-point games over the last 7 days, just on an absolute tear, having an unbelievable season, one of the best guard seasons of all time. So I want to throw some stats at you here to start. Last night alone, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 52 in the game, 41 of those points came on isolations and pick and rolls. That stat is courtesy of Carson Breber of Nerd Sesh, but I just think that's insane. 41 points just on isos and pick and rolls. So no catch and shoots, no fast breaks, no cuts, nothing easy, just straight up self-created buckets. Shai gets 41 just on those alone last night. Shai is leading the league for guards in points in the paint by a mile at 14.3 points per game in the paint. He's actually fourth in the entire league, unless you include Zion Williamson, who's only played 13 games. But either way, top 5 in the league in points in the paint as a point guard is just incredible. He's leading the league in drives, having one of the most incredible, paint finishing seasons. He is getting by guys at will, getting into the paint, and finishing at an unbelievable level. Also having an unbelievable mid-range season as well. But he is 9th in field goal percentage at the rim this season. Think about that. 9th in the league in field goal percentage at the rim. I'm going to read the list of the guys in front of him and just tell me if anything sticks out about this list, okay? So number 1, Mark Williams, Walker Kessler, Jarrett Allen, Daniel Gafford, Rudy Gobert, Jalen Johnson, Evan Mobley, Anthony Davis, and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. There's your top 9 for field goal percentage in the restricted area so far this season. That stat was from, it's a little bit outdated. That's from like a couple weeks ago, but I'm sure it's still around the same. Anyways, what stuck out to you about the guys ahead of Shai? Is it the fact that they're all big men? Is it the fact that they all catch lobs, that they all get easy putbacks, that they all are, a guy like Jalen Johnson gets a lot of transition points? Like, Shai is on a list. He is shooting that high of a percentage as a guy who's driving and finishing against rim protectors, against the best defender on the other team. He's not getting easy ones, and Shai is still top 9 in field goal percentage in that category. It's just unbelievable. And what Shai is doing this year, combined with what Jokic is doing this year, has given us one of the craziest MVP races I can remember. Jokic is like the clear, undisputed best player in the world at the peak of his powers, having one of the best offensive seasons of all time. And his team now is a top 4 seed. You know, the knock on Jokic before was, well, his team's an 8 seed, they're the 7th seed, they're in the play-in, whatever. Well, now they're a top 4 seed, and Jokic is still doing what he's doing. But then you have SGA, who, like I said, is having an all-time guard season, and his team is on pace for 66 wins through this, first half of the season. So both guys having ridiculous seasons. Both guys have ridiculous on-off splits. When Jokic is off the court, the Nuggets go from a top 4 team in the West to the worst team in the league, and like one of the worst offenses of all time. And for SGA, like when SGA is off the floor, the Thunder go from the best team in the league, like I said, on pace for 66 wins, to a mediocre 42-44 win pace team. So both these guys just having incredible impacts on their team. I'm happy that I don't have to vote for this award, because it's a toss-up. I have no idea where I would go at this point. But back to Shai. 2 50-point games in the last week is absolutely incredible. And funny enough, the Thunder actually lost both of those games. I didn't watch the Jazz game. I try to watch as little Utah Jazz as possible. So I can't really speak on that. But last night they lost not because Shai was like ball hogging or like he was screwing up the offense. No. Shai was unbelievable. They lost the game because they shot 9 for 39 from 3. They also had a couple of miscues on defense, I thought, that kind of let Steph get going, and stuff that you don't really see the Thunder do, just miscommunications on screen, stuff like that. I show a couple of them, later on in the film breakdown. But this speaks to, what the game plan is when you play the Thunder. And I think the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Cup kind of showed the blueprint for what it is, right? It's crowding the paint, it's daring them to make shots, and if they make shots, so be it. They look like, an unstoppable team because they have the best defense in the league. They have one of the best, scorers in the league, probably the best scorer in the league in Shai. And then if all the role players hit shots, it's just like this avalanche of, unstoppable stuff going on. But last night, the Warriors kind of stuck to that game plan, especially in the second half, really crowded the paint, dared the Thunder role players to kill them from the outside, and they couldn't. They couldn't make a shot, and that led to the Warriors getting out in transition a lot. Also, shooting well as a team for the Warriors. But a lot of it was because they got stops, they got out in transition, and they created advantages that way. They won the fast break points 18-5. So definitely a little bit more of a emphasis on transition, especially in the second half for the Warriors. As for the Warriors, talking about this game specifically, I thought Andrew Wiggins played a really, really nice game, and he has been their second best scorer thus far in the season. I think he's averaging 20.8 points or so per game, right behind Steph Curry, who's around 21-ish. But Wiggins really kept them in this game in the first half. Steph couldn't get going. The Thunder obviously selling out, doing everything they could to stop Steph from getting clean looks, stop him from touching the ball, really. And Wiggins, 15 big points in the first half that really kept them within striking distance, ended up down 10 at the half. And then going into the second half, hit really big shots down the stretch. He hits a really big three in this game. Second half, he makes a really nice dump off pass. I just thought, really impacted the game last night. But talking about the Warriors season overall, rather than just last night's game, the offense has just been pretty brutal for a Steph Curry team, especially. They are 15th in offensive rating, and this was a stat that I kind of seeked this one out. They're bottom 7 in pull-up shooting, and that was one where I just watched them, and I'm like, nobody makes shots off the dribble. Like, they don't shoot well, overall, just on catch and shoots on any shots, but they really have no sort of like creation. They have nobody who's like getting to the mid-range and hitting, step backs or pull-ups. So bottom 7 in pull-up shooting for this team. Not great. But I do want to say, Steph Curry not having a great statistical year, and he's not having the best year of his career by any means. But I do just want to say, the offense is 14.3 points per 100 possessions better when Steph Curry's on the floor. So I just want to say, like, the box score stuff with Steph, yes, it's not pretty, but he is, first of all, asked to do so much, and the defense is forced to commit so many resources to Steph that it completely changes the offense, when he's off the court versus when he is on. I know that's, stating the obvious, but Steph has gotten like a little bit, just a hint, just a tiny bit of criticism for his play this year. And I really think it's more of a product of not having enough help more than Steph not playing well, because you think about Steph's gravity, you think about, all the doubles that he forces, how defenses are forced to guard him because of his shooting. But that gravity is only really going to be impactful if guys knock down shots, and they just aren't, and they haven't thus far this season. And I think there is a clear lack of a second creator. Now, they do have really good role players. Like, up and down this roster, you can look and you can find guys who can defend. You can find guys, who play hard, who hustle, guys who move the ball well, good decision makers, good rebounders, good big men. Like, whatever you want in terms of a role player, the Warriors can fill that role. They just have this one glaring weakness of a secondary creator and a second star. And, I mentioned Andrew Wiggins having a really big game last night. He ends up with 27 on the night, and when they have those games from guys like Wiggins, from Buddy Hield earlier in the season, if Kuminga has a really big night, they look awesome. Like, they look like they did last night, where they are competing with, the best team in basketball and end up beating the best team in the entire league. They beat Boston earlier in the year, when Buddy Hield was on that hot streak. And it's just like, if they can get just any offense outside of Steph, if they have one other guy score, 25 plus, they're a really, really damn hard team to beat because of all the other stuff that they have, in terms of their role players. So I think they do have that glaring weakness. And so where do they go from here? Do they make a swing at Zach LaVine? Is it Cam Johnson? Is it Jimmy Butler? Or do they just ride it out with this group and, try and sneak into the play-in and try and make something happen that way? Like, if they don't make a move, their season's, doomed. Like, maybe they get out of the play-in, maybe they make it in the first round, and at best they can pull off an upset against a Houston or a Memphis in the first round. But even that is like, feels far-fetched at this point. So I would go for it. I would go get LaVine. I think if he's available. Because like I said, the rest of the roster is really good. They're just asking Schroeder, they're asking Wiggins, Kuminga to be something that they're not. They're trying to slide those guys into this role of a secondary scorer and a second star, which that's not who those guys are. So go get that guy. And I don't think that it's going to be like mortgaging the Warriors' future in order to go get another guy like a Zach LaVine. So if you can go get a guy like that and keep together for the most part this core of really good role players, then you can talk about, them maybe sneaking into the playoffs. Maybe they end up as the 6th seed, and then anything can happen. Like I said, with this team, when anybody else other than Steph can get going, they are so good. So I don't know why you wouldn't try and go for it when you have Steph Curry on your roster. And like I said, you wouldn't have to give up your whole future. They have a lot of their picks still, and I think they can afford to trade one or two if that's all it's going to take to go get another guy to pair alongside Steph Curry. So that's my thought on that. But let's get into this game a little bit. It was a really fun one. It was a tale of two halves for sure. But I'm going to show some SGA, obviously. Going to show, some of the awesome, Steph Curry moments that we had in this second half. So with that said, guys, I do hope you enjoy. We will send it over to the film breakdown. All right, we've made it to the film breakdown. The first half was a little bit rough for the Warriors. They ended up down 58-48 at half. But to start this second half, they started playing great defense, getting stops. They started getting out in transition, and they got themselves back within one. So let's go from this point on. Let's see what happens in this game. And watch Cason Wallace on this play here. Watch the blender that the Warriors put you through. Multiple screens. It's tough for him to get around. You see Buddy Hield, a good shooter, coming off of this screen. Jalen Williams steps up. He jumps. He definitely shouldn't have left his feet here, and it leaves Kevon Looney wide open. That looks a lot more like Warriors basketball compared to what we saw in the first half. Andrew Wiggins had a really nice game. You'll see right here, this was supposed to be a handoff for Steph Curry, but Isaiah Joe and the Thunder did a good job of blowing it up. So when you take Steph out, what happens? Where do you go? You have to find some sort of secondary creation. This time, Wiggins comes off, gets the DHO, makes a nice drop-off pass to Looney, who finishes. Looney had a really big game. All right, watch Jalen Williams here. I thought he played an overall really good game. He's still an unbelievable defender, and he made some really big buckets down the stretch. But watch, he takes some of these really tough twos here, just isolated, step back, falling away, over a contest, early shot clock. I think this is a part of his game that he has to kind of get rid of. He has a good mid-range game. Yes, he's such a talented player. He can make some really tough shots, but early shot clock, contested, nobody else touches the ball. This is a type of shot that I think J-Dub needs to start to try and get rid of, take that out of his game, and just keep that in mind because he takes a similar one in a really big moment later on in the game. Some more beautiful Warriors offense here. This is just classic. Watch, Steph is going to try and come off of this split action, but Lou Dort does a good job, and Steph decides to cut it back door. So again, Steph is basically now taken out of the play. You see Isaiah Joe helping hard. Steph is not open. So now, again, you got to find some sort of secondary creation, secondary shot making, more split action here. Wiggins coming off the screen. He catches it, and he just rises up and knocks this down. Wiggins had a really good game. When the Warriors can just get anyone other than Steph going, it is so huge for them, and Wiggins provided that last night. Shai dropped 52. He was abusing switches and mismatches all night. You see the double drag set here, and Schroeder doesn't want to fight through this. He sends Guy Santos up to guard Shai, and man, is that a bad idea. Quick between the legs, Shai gets downhill. Kyle Anderson has to help, and Shai puts this in and one. Shai's got it again here. Lou Dort going to come up and set this screen. And look at Shai. He gives him just a slow little between the legs and then explodes right by Wiggins. He is so hard to keep in front. Gives him a little bump and then takes care of this help with a Euro, gets through it, and puts this up for another and one back-to-back plays. Steph Curry had a rough first half, was 1 for 7, but really got going in this second. Watch right here. Gary Payton is looking to get the ball to Steph, but Steph's like, nah, give it to Looney. I want to come off this screen. So he does. And Aaron Wiggins, you have to be so aware when Steph Curry's on the court. I know Wiggins isn't guarding him. Wiggins is guarding Looney here. But when you're guarding the screener, whoever it is for the Warriors, you have to be so attached because you have to be aware of Steph coming off of these. And Steph obviously knocks this one down. Steph this time just coming off a simple dribble down screen, and watch what he does. Gives Kaysen just a little bit of a bump, a little bit of a push, and Kaysen kind of, I think Steph steps on his foot here. Kaysen trips, and Steph catches this, knocks it down again. That's back-to-back plays where you just see the margin of error when you're guarding Steph Curry is so minuscule. You cannot give him a second of separation because he will punish you. Another play run for Steph here, going to send him off multiple screens. He catches this. You see iHeart is up and ready. Isaiah Joe chasing over the top. Steph gets his shoulder into Hartenstein and actually knocks him over, which clears this lane to pass it to Looney, and Hartenstein on the ground. There's no other big man in the game. Looney, that's an easy 2. Or excuse me, he got fouled. All right, I thought this one was interesting. I don't know what the problem is here or who to blame here. You see Lou Dort, he's running down to the dunker spot, but watch Shai. He drives before Lou Dort is even close to the dunker spot. So what happens is you end up with a really crowded paint. Podziemski is in good position to help. Looney comes over as well. Shai goes up and, tries to challenge these rim protectors, and Looney sends it back. The Warriors get the stop and get out in transition. Schroeder ends up getting fouled, but that was, a big story of the second half versus the first for the Warriors. They started getting stops. This was, again, after a pick and roll where the Warriors had to switch, and Shai just abusing the mismatches all night. Probably the best isolation scorer in basketball. Actually, not probably. I think he's by far the best ISO scorer right now. So the Thunder just saw him cook Kyle Anderson. They like that matchup. They go back to the same action. We're just hunting Kyle Anderson. We want him on Shai, and Shai just going to go to work, cross him over, get into the lane, and put in a high floater. That is so nasty. Shai was absolutely unstoppable last night. Same exact thing here. Shai, again, wanting the matchup with Kyle Anderson, this time going hard to the rim, can't keep him out of the paint, has to foul him. Shai was just taken over. Now, this possession right here had to be frustrating if you were a Thunder fan. Shai was absolutely dominating the game, but he doesn't touch the ball on this possession. You see J-Dub drive, hit Kaysen, and Kaysen going to kick this back out. Lou Dort drives it and ends up throwing up some crap, gets blocked out of bounds, and now you have 2.1 on the shot clock, and it ends up being a stop for Golden State. Multiple possessions, though, down the stretch. I counted 3 where Shai just did not touch the ball and the Thunder didn't score. There were also possessions where Shai didn't touch the ball and the Thunder did score, but I don't know. It was a little bit too little of Shai down the stretch. So remember that play from earlier where I showed Shai getting into the lane, but Lou Dort was kind of clogging it up. There was a bunch of Golden State bodies and Shai ended up getting blocked. So this time Shai gets into the paint again, and there are a bunch of Golden State bodies here again, but this time the OKC spacing is good. You have multiple shooters. Shai ends up kicking this one out. Lou Dort swings at J-Dub, gets a nice catch and shoot look, knocks it down. Now, this was a possession where Shai, again, didn't touch the ball, but J-Dub just makes a really nice move here, coming off the screen, quick between the legs, gets into the lane, and goes up for the lefty finish. It actually looks a little bit like Shai, doesn't it? This is classic Shai Gilgeous-Alexander coming off a screen, just a quick between the legs and getting a tough finish in the lane. Right here, an uncharacteristic mistake by the Thunder defense. Steph comes up to get it. Schroeder going to set the guard-to-guard screen, and there's some confusion here. You see Isaiah Joe's standing a little bit too far back, but I think Lou Dort is telling him to switch this, and Isaiah Joe doesn't get the message. He thinks Dort has Steph, and Steph, look at where he's shooting it from, but that's Steph Curry. You can't give him that much space. Knocks it down. Huge shot, puts him up 6. All right, at this point, obviously, Steph has made a bunch of threes. He's cooking. Look at where Lou Dort is standing this whole possession. Just watch where Lou Dort is. He's guarding Andrew Wiggins, right? So Steph comes off the screen, and look at Schroeder. Really smart, setting a screen to clear up Wiggins. You see Dort still cheating off of him, trying to get the ball out of Steph's hands, and Schroeder clogs this up for Dort. Steph makes the pass, and Wiggins knocks down a big one off the catch. They actually got a decent contest on it, but you can't allow good shooters to have clean catches and clean looks, and Wiggins was really feeling it tonight. That was a big shot. Nice play. So that shot put Golden State up 7 points, but look, there's still 1:20 on the clock, and there's still a chance for OKC to win this game, but J-Dub, this is what I was talking about earlier. Some of the shot selection with him, he granted did just score 7 straight for the Thunder, so I don't mind the aggressiveness, but this shot specifically, with 18 on the clock, Shai didn't touch the ball, and you're trying to make a fadeaway over a 7-footer. It's desperate. It's a low percentage shot, and I didn't like it. Again, like, I just think it's an area of improvement for J-Dub. Not that I don't love him as a player. I think he's fantastic. I think he's got a real shot and a real case to make the All-Star game this year, but it's just some of the shot selection stuff needs to improve. So OKC now in a pretty precarious situation, and watch this play from Schroeder. Gets by SGA, goes up one-handed for the layup, collapses the defense, but you see the cutting Gary Payton. Schroeder hits him, and the exclamation point on this one for Gary Payton Jr. What a dunk, what a pass. Dennis Schroeder, by the way, I didn't show a lot of him, played a really nice game for them. And you know, that trade, like, it doesn't look like it had worked out, you know, for the first couple weeks of it, but man, when Schroeder plays well, like, he's really, really good, and they just need to get more consistency out of him. They need to get more consistency really out of everybody, in terms of, you know, shot creation and shooting, because, like, on a night like this where Andrew Wiggins plays really well, the Golden State Warriors, like, look as good as just about anyone. They beat the best team in the league, the team with the best record in basketball in Oklahoma City. So they just desperately need consistent secondary scoring. And if you can get it from Wiggins, if you can get it from Kuminga, if you can get it from Schroeder, that's great. But so far, those guys haven't been super consistent on the season. So last night, of course, you got it from Wiggins. You got contributions from guys like Schroeder, from guys like Looney as well, who had a really big game. But overall, you know, really fun game. Shai drops 52, and the Thunder still can't come away with the victory. So really fun one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more.